Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from Conscious Business Zone here today with Justice. And I'm so excited, Justice Bartlett. How are you?
I am doing great this morning. Thank you. How are
Well,
you?
I'm doing great. I'm snowed in. I'm working from home today. This is the first Conscious Business Zone that's been done from my home. So we're making some progress here. So it just proves you can do it if you have your mindset. You can do it anywhere, right? Right?
Absolutely.
So, Justice, I'm really excited about everyone hearing more about how you can play with consciousness. You have a site called Playfully Conscious, and I want to read a little bit of what your bio says. It says, Justice is a lover of love and a lover of words, life, nature, and communication. As a healer and psychotherapist, she does not
Therapist.
hypnotherapist. She does not put people into trance. She takes them out. That's going to be a great conversation. And she does it with presence, deep kindness, hard won wisdom, and what can be described as nothing less than shared grace. So, Justice, can you tell us a little bit about what that means?
What does that mean?
It's magic.
It is magic. So I would invite everybody who's listening or everybody who's going to hear this later just to come into this space with me. Come into your room, come into your body, take a breath, let it out. Soften your belly, drop your shoulders, and just really let yourself be here. And then let's just breathe together for just a minute. That, my loves, is a state shift. And that is what changing your consciousness is all about. When I say that I don't put people in trance, I take them out. This sort of the beginnings of this natural, relaxed, aware state, that is our natural state. In Buddhism, it's that non-dual consciousness. It's really who we are and how we are. And play is the interface that we most naturally interact with the world. Think about when you're a child, you're curious, you're exploratory, you're expansive. That's your natural state. So anytime we experience a significant or even a disruption as a trauma to that natural state, the first thing that we do is we change our breath. The very first thing that we do that puts us in trance is we change our breath. And from there, all of our biorhythms change. The way that we think starts to change. The state that we hold in our body physiologically, biochemically starts to change. And then we build a narrative around that state, and we use that state to lock that narrative in place. And that is what going into trance is basically all about. So play is coming out of trance. It's coming back to your original state. It's not about frivolity, although obviously play is fun, but it's also about dealing with the hard and the holy and the human, the important stuff, the difficult conversations from a more relaxed, engaged place. Playfully conscious as a process is about tuning into your inner world, tuning into your outer world, and building a bridge of communication between the two that is sustainable, resilient, and supportive and nurturing.
Wow. Well, that seems to be at least for me right now, I can hit the inner state. And I do feel a lot of what I'm going through is an inner work right now. And I think a lot of people would agree with me that watching the outside is a little disruptive and difficult to understand, because if you're working on the nurturing and the loving part of yourself and being love, breathing in love, breathing out harmony, all of those aspects, and then you look outside, it's so chaotic right now. And we're going into election year, and it's not going to get any easier. How do you lock those two together, Justice? Because that seems to be, I mean, you can hit peak state, come out feeling wonderful, and then 3 hours later be triggered.
Mm-hmm. So the way that you deal with it is it's not about hitting a peak state, and it's not about sustaining a peak state.
Oh.
It's about resilience.
Okay.
So when you think about all these external circumstances, the elections, the climate crisis, all of this, and you drop the narrative for just a moment and just pay attention to the sensations in your body. Just notice how you feel. Notice that state of being emotionally triggered. Notice that feeling of helplessness or frustration. And be honest with yourself. How long have those feelings been there?
Right. Forever.
Forever. Yeah.
Multiple lifetimes. Can we give it the hook now?
Exactly. So even though the current circumstances are bringing the state up to the surface, they are not entirely the cause of it.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It's the human condition and tapping into the human condition, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, we have epigenetic influences, ancestral influences, collective influences. They're always at play at us and within us. And sorting through those different vibrations to sort of get to what our core essence is not about, like I said, again, it's not about maintaining that peak state. If you're looking to maintain a peak state in your human existence, I hate to say this in some senses, but it needs to be said, you're no better than a junkie looking for their next high.
Right, right.
Because it's not sustainable. Something's going to come along, and then when it does come along, you're going to feel like you've done something wrong. And that just reactivates that whole childhood loop of not being good enough, not being able to, not being able to maintain. So what we're focused on with playing with what's arising from within and relating to it from without is noticing and engaging first and primarily with the sensations in your body. So before you fire off that response or hit share on that post that really disturbs you, right, in social media, or fire back in that conversation that you're having with someone over Thanksgiving weekend, because we know that's coming, right?
Yes, that's why it's so perfect you're doing this. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Pause to be with yourself for just a moment. Just take that breath in. As you do this as a practice, it becomes more habitual. So our reactions are habitual, but we can create different habits internally and externally by pausing to take care of ourselves in the moment before we jump into that reaction mode. And it is a magic fix in that it liberates our energy from those previous reactions, and it gives us a broader frequency access and allows us to change our narrative to include new information and experiences and relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a really super grounded human fix in that nothing's getting fixed. You're just sort of revealing what's there that needs to be cared for. And that's what I look around in the world when I see this big disparity between a lot of spiritual teachings and what's actually happening. It's not okay to just focus on the positive. It's not okay to just focus on what's working in your life and what you want, because what you don't want is going to intrude always. So building that state of resilience to where it's okay to notice things in yourself that you don't like. It's okay to be with unpleasant memories and feelings and sensations. It's absolutely necessary for us to function as adults, to make a difference in this big, beautiful, broken-hearted world, is to let our hearts, let our little broken hearts, weep and cry and, and take care of them and tend to them. And then we know how to do it out here.
Well, it's like when you do have that crash where you really let yourself grieve, that you do come out the other side totally resilient. So I love that you're using that word. But what you're talking about is actually being able to be conscious in the moment. And that's where all these people are going to be together with family in just a few days. And either you go back into your role playing
Right.
that you had. I'm number 4 out of 5. Yuck. I was the observer because they were all talking. Believe it or not, I didn't talk that much. Um, but I was always taught think before you speak. So then you really watched, all of those things, and you sort of go, does that serve me anymore? Does that serve me anymore? Does that serve me anymore? Is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And a great way to prepare yourself as you're going into this holiday season and Thanksgiving and in these gatherings is take a little time for yourself before you go. Take a little time to kind of check in, maybe do some journaling or some meditating, a mindful practice, particularly a somatically mindful practice where you're really tuning in to the sensations in your body.
Okay.
Because that's what tends to get repeated. And that's where we tend to react from. So ask yourself, what has been my role in this family? How have I typically shown up?
Wow.
What usually pushes my buttons? Who do I know that is going to be a problem for me ahead of time? So you're kind of preparing yourself before you go into this situation so that, it's like, you're not going into battle, hopefully.
Well, it's actually, the thing is that it's not actually, I don't have that much trouble while I'm in the group. It's the afterwards. Right. It's the playing the damn tape over and over again because usually the things that get you are true, where they say something and it's like, I know it's true, but I hate you for saying it, or I'm not ready to talk about that now, or any of those things, the defense, the reflections, whatever. Go.
You brought up the defense reflections, and that's wonderful. And you can actually kind of head those off. Come here, sweetheart. You can head those off ahead of time too, because the defensiveness comes from that younger part of you that that doesn't have the skills or resources to deal with that conversation, that doesn't have to deal with that communication.
Oh, okay.
And what typically happens in family or in these kind of dynamics where those younger parts are getting triggered is that it's like they're kind of out in front of us and they're sort of taking all the hits. And we're kind of in a state of shock, whereas like we can't respond in the moment, and then we do in that regressive rumination thing, right? Uh-huh. So have a conscious, intentional conversation with your inner child and let your inner child know before you go into this gathering, your survival, our survival, little love, little tiny important love is not dependent on these people anymore. It's not dependent on maintaining their narratives. It's not dependent on their approval. It's not dependent on, what they do or don't bring home to us. We've got each other, right?
Right.
Because it's that regressive ruminating that's where we get stuck. And that's where those old feelings and that old story keeps, it keeps going on repeat. Is this making sense to you guys that are listening? I just
so you know, let's see. Susie Jones says hello, lovely. Zach Bergen's here, says he's present. I'm glad he's not shoveling. Marianne St. Clair says great conversation, thank you. And Prince says amazing. So great, thank you all. Well, so I think what I'd like to ask more about the somatic training. I know you were very, very involved with the matrix energetics work. Is that where you learned the somatic work? Oh, okay.
I'm needing to grab my phone charger, so don't mind me as I grab my charger. Don't mind me as I climb around a little bit here.
This is real, you guys. This is real.
This is a lot what a session looks like with me as well. It's me, enthusiastic, skillful, messy, needing to charge my devices.
What's real. That's what I love about this work, and I really see that you're going to reach people that the traditional work has left behind. Really.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I actually work with a lot of other healers and psychotherapists. So, yes. And what's great about the way that I work is with traditional psychotherapy, you're changing the story. You're often sort of regurgitating the story and kind of hopefully building different context within the story. You include the somatic work, bringing it back to the body, really kind of making the body the primary focus, because that was with you through all the experiences. So however your energy and your physical body responded to these different situations, that's still stored in your body.
Okay.
And with the trance, we change the breath. That changes everything. The whole system rearranges around that, right? So
your parasympathetic system changes, right?
And more than that.
Okay.
More than that.
Okay.
Because if you are in a significant state of fight or flight for longer than a few minutes, say your fight or flight becomes habituated, that is going to increase your adrenaline. That's going to increase your cortisol. And these are hormones that your body is not designed to process in mass quantities that most of us in our modern society are. So that changes the entire chain reaction of your health going all the way down. And it starts with that initial trauma response to stress.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you guys who are watching and listening?
Well, I can't tell that they've said anything yet, but Nicole's here too. Hi, Nicole. Yeah, I haven't seen that they've said that they got it, but to me, Susie said very relevant. I would say that is there a way? You did a breath while I was getting set up. So is there a way? Susie says yes. Is there a way for us to experience this again? I mean, you did a breath thing at the very beginning, but I was getting everything set up.
So the playfully conscious process is about changing the state and changing the context of the story simultaneously.
Okay.
And almost all of our problem stories are birthed from these childhood narratives where we didn't understand the impact of what other people's internal worlds were doing to us. So we internalized another person's internal world and made that part of our personal narrative.
Wow.
And then it becomes part of the world narrative as well. So that story reinforces that frozen state. The frozen state reinforces the story, and they become like a Chinese finger trap. Got it? Makes sense, guys?
Yeah. Yes.
Excuse me.
Drink something. I'm a mom. Can you tell?
What we're going to do, thank you. Me too. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back to the state. So let's slow down. Take a nice breath all the way deep into your lungs. Let it out. Yeah, let your body kind of adjust, make whatever adjustments it wants to make. And just kind of drop your gaze, soften your belly, drop your shoulders, and just let yourself naturally and organically breathe for just a moment. And we're just going to bring that state even further down. Just really allow yourself to relax into that. And now, as you continue to breathe, let your mind kind of wander. Notice any sensations that come up in your body. Notice any emotions that arise to be tended to. Notice any stories. And specifically pick something that feels a little sticky to you. So if a memory comes up, just let yourself kind of focus in on that memory. If an emotion comes up, let yourself really notice that emotion. If it's a sensation in your body, really let yourself feel that sensation, because that's kind of the core of it all. And to give you an example, I'll talk through what's showing up in me. So I have this tension running up my my left IT band that wasn't there before we started engaging in this process.
Okay.
Because when you slow down to be present with yourself, the things that most want your attention will come to the surface. So the story with this particular physical discomfort with me is I tend to run more energy on the left side of my body. It tends to be charged. I tend to feel defensiveness there. It's my old story of needing to be defensive around feeling helpless. And there's lots of examples that I can pick out from my life that match up with that. So I imagine that you guys all could notice something similar. And if it's something outside in the world that's bothering you, that's okay too. You want to bring what's bothering you back to your physical sensations.
Okay.
So we've got the physical sensation. And
Okay.
if you guys want to comment here, whether this is making sense or not, whether you're in it, if something's coming up that you want to share, I love the process of engagement and playing back and forth with the audience. So please, I adore your feedback.
Okay. Well, Tom's here now. Tom Brophy's here, and Richard Alex and Scott Weir's here also. So we've got some people that I hope they will comment. I'm feeling it in my gut. Nicole's saying in it.
In it. Yes.
If we get it, Nicole.
Yes. And you're feeling it in your gut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kathy, bring your attention into that sensation in your gut.
Okay.
And just be curious, and you're going to bring your awareness to your gut, and you're just going to continue to breathe naturally and normally. And pose that question, how long has that feeling been there?
The first since 5. Susie Jones is saying her sinus.
Good. So this, as I go through this process with Kathy, you guys can all do this with your specific body part. So how long has that feeling been in there? And Kathy says since she was like 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the body remembers. This is the somatic intelligence that's so amazing.
Okay.
So.
And Nicole says chest and breath, she says.
Beautiful. I love this. Thank you for participating, guys. It makes it so much more fun. So wherever it is in your body, you're going to just bring awareness in there, ask how long has this been there, and get in touch with that younger part of yourself. Maybe a specific memory comes up, maybe not. Maybe it's just a generalized overall sense of discomfort there.
Oh, mine feels like I don't have any control. Mine feels helpless. A helplessness. Yeah.
Yes.
I just got the picture. I had my hair was down to my waist, and I really liked it, and they cut it off. And I remember it cut it to real short pixie, and they said, "Oh, don't you love your pixie?" And I was like, "No, I loved my long hair." Yeah. Oh. Okay, so Zach's saying my third eye beaming like a lighthouse in your direction. Thank you, Zach.
So guys, keep bringing your attention into the body and noticing the story of discomfort. So we're not creating this right now in this moment. This has been there. And more than likely, you've created a bunch of adaptations and distractions and disassociations to not deal with this, because when you were 5 and they took your hair, you couldn't do anything about that.
Right.
And that feeling of helplessness, it gets mapped to all of these other circumstances that feel just like that.
Right.
And like nobody physically hurt you, but that is a disruption to your life force stream. That's a disruption to your physical kind of projection of your identity, which is important. So that's a trauma.
It's weird. I haven't thought of that. I don't even know when I've thought of it. Because, yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's what it is with the somatic stuff. The body remembers. Tom says, feeling lots of tension around my heart area. Yes. Come into that area and feel that tension. And when you feel this discomfort, you don't want to push it away. You want to sort of enfold your attention around it and breathe into the full body. Because wherever the discomfort is, that's an indication of the trance state. Because the whole body would be able to distribute that energy more effectively.
Okay.
So we want to go in our mind's eye to that little child part, Kathy, and let her know she didn't do anything wrong. Because anytime we experience disruption to our life force, it feels like we've done something wrong.
Right, right.
So you want to let her know she didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with her. And tell her anything else that feels reassuring for her to hear in that moment. And you can tell if it's reassuring because you'll feel the sense of relaxation in your own body.
Yeah, I do already. It's amazing. Well, my dad was bald, and they took the hair and braided it, and they made a joke about it to give it to him since he didn't have hair. And I'm seeing it in a box. Yeah, in a braid that they just cut off. That is wild, right?
Yeah.
Wild.
And see, guys, we're playing with it. We're not feeding into the drama of it. We're creating a different narrative with the story by reassuring that child part. We're creating a different state in the body with that process of reassurance. So we're changing the state and we're changing the context of the story.
Right. Right.
So let's ask that little girl what she would like to do with that hair in that box. Let's give her the power back to make the decision.
Mm-hmm. I know. She's saying throw it out back for the animals to make their nest with it.
Oh, I love that. What a little sweetheart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We had a lot of we had a big backyard, so.
And this is that deeper childhood somatic, like psyche wisdom that's coming through, that's guiding the process. So go with her, Kathy. Go outside with her.
Okay.
And give the hair back. Give the
Okay.
hair back to the forest, to the animal.
Yeah. Yeah. That feels good.
Yeah.
It's joyful rather than that other state is high anxiety. It was what a contrast of joyful playfulness versus fear. There are a lot of fear in the first initial state.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So now the last part of this process is we want to take that child part out of that environment. We want to invite her to come back and live with you.
Okay. Cool. That feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah. More integrated.
More.
Wow. I honestly have not thought about that since I was a little girl, I bet.
Yeah.
Certainly never told anybody about it.
Wow. Oh, thank you for your vulnerability with everybody here.
Yeah. Well, it's what happened.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Check in with everybody else. How did you guys do with, oh, hi, Pat. I love you too. How did you guys do with that process? Were you able to follow that to some sort of sense of resolution or comfort within yourselves? Are you stuck in anything? I'm happy to take a moment to, to specifically be with you if you have a comment. It's a super simple process that can take you into really deep, surprising places, like it happened with Kathy.
It's wild. Honestly, that was wild how fast and how eager it was to release.
I had to leave it as I'm the missing part of your comments is you had to leave it as your multitasking. Gotcha. And,
well, you listen to this again, to listen to the replay and do it when you're in a private way where you can really focus. That's what this is, such a gift before Thanksgiving, where people are with the trigger opportunities.
I love that.
Well, that's what it can be, but it's also that you don't want to show up numb either. I mean, that's the thing, because at least for me, that was, I was the observer. I'm so empathic, but my empath skills a lot of times are to protect me from my environment, to know is this safe, is it not safe, whatever. So
And that requires a lot of energy to run that whole task, right?
Right. So Tom says, I'm still sitting with it. Thank you for the love and support. Oh, thanks, Tom.
Pleasure, love. Absolute pleasure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love you brought that up. Because that empathic thing that a lot of us do, and the numbing too. I love that you brought that up as well. Numbing or any kind of addictive behavior is a natural response to pain. So the numbing, the disassociating, that's what we do when we don't have the skills or resources to deal with what's inside of us, or to be able to change the circumstances of what's going on out here. So that kind of sitting back that you're describing and sort of watching everything go. And then I would imagine that replaying that the narrative of it is kind of your body almost like a recording device, sort of giving you all the information and the vibration that you absorbed while you're in that environment, right?
Right. Well, it was amazing. Honestly, I don't think I've thought of that since I was little. So if I made a impression in my system, it layered some other truths. So basically, you create this paradigm of what the world is, and you're looking for love. You're looking for love. You're from when you start. When you're real little, you're lovable because you're getting all that nurturing, hopefully. And then as you grow, the world according to your paradigm evolves, right?
Right.
So and then everything, that's why they say it's an onion, because each layer builds upon each side. So I don't know, that's a deep layer that came to the surface. You would have thought I would have had to dig for it. That's wild. Is that what you find a lot, that people, they have these epiphanies like that? That was amazing.
Yes.
That was so cool.
And it can be very quick, and then it can lead into sort of exploring the way that the rest of the narrative is held in place. Like, what was your role in that family system? Like you were saying, you were the observer, you were quiet, you were empathic. I have a client who, really had believed that he had grown up in this very loving environment. But then when we got down to it, it was actually pretty cold. Like the physical needs were met, but there wasn't any kind of exchange of affection. There wasn't shared meals. And so like as he took apart this narrative, he came to really understand he didn't actually really have a reference for love and affection. He had a reference for basic needs being handled. And as children, one of the common confusions for us that we then take into adulthood is that love and acceptance is the same thing. So what we wind up doing is we wind up bargaining belonging, our own sense of self and comfort and ability to rest in our own skins, with fitting in. to get our needs met, because we look at the way that the family unit is structured and we know if I show up in this way, say if I'm overly emotional and this family is not emotionally inclined, that's not going to get my needs met.
Right, right.
So you learn to be quiet with it. You learn to shut it down. You become more introverted. You take that creative aspect into your room to survive or do whatever, right?
Right.
In the same instance as if you live in a highly emotionally volatile household and you're a very sensitive being, you're going to have a really hard time out volatiling the people who are bigger than you. So you learn to suppress those organic instincts to protect yourself. And that's another one of the ways that that fight or flight loop gets stuck in the body. Because if you want to fight, if you're a natural fighter and you can't fight against someone who's bigger and more powerful than you, you have to kind of internalize that instinct. If if you're a runner and there's nowhere to go, you have to internalize that instinct. If you are if you freeze, that that's basically internalizing both of those instincts and just kind of stopping the whole process. But then all of those organic internalized responses later in life turn into neuroses. They turn into anxiety. They turn into depression. They turn into actual physical disease in the body because our body can't keep up with processing the onslaught of stress and biochemical breakdown that's happening at a physiological level.
Right.
So when you come back in and you change that state and you change that narrative, it organically releases that energy, and that energy that was sort of bound up feeling anxious and neurotic, it's now got room to be distributed and explored and played with in a more wholesome way. I hope that's making sense to you guys.
Yeah, I'm not seeing their comments, but I'm sure this is deep. I mean, you're making it sound so naturally easy, but it's so deep and it's so valuable. So Justice, do you find that people need like a bunch of these sessions in order to get to the core issues, or do you find that it happens pretty fast?
I find that core issues present really quickly.
Okay.
And that I provide a support system for helping to rebuild that bridge between your internal and external world. Because my preferred way to work with people is in playfully conscious partnerships. So I tend to do more mentoring kind of relationships with people rather than just a one-off, let's just pow, boom you session. Because what'll happen, Kathy, and this may happen with you, and you're welcome to call me if it does. That part that got witnessed, it's like it sends like a message to all of its other little friends inside that also want to be witnessed, and they're like, hey, we found somebody that can help us, like it's safe to come out now. and I provide the role of being, that mentor and that facilitator, but in the process of working together, I'm teaching you, I'm showing you how to do it for yourself. So I don't heal people as an external force. I show you how to work more effectively and compassionately with your own resources and get access to those.
That sounds great. So could you tell us some stories of the people? Because I know you have tons of cool experiences.
Oh gosh,
Pat is on here, so Pat had some amazing experiences too.
Yeah. Let me just kind of feel into my body. What's a good story for you guys? Everybody loves relationships, right? Let's talk about relationships and how this can help you in your relationships.
Okay.
So I have a young guy that I have worked with since he was 19, and he's now like 20, 24, 25. He's paid for his sessions the whole time, like so dedicated. I'm just blown away by this dude. So this year, he gets into one of these intense relationships where it's all hot sex and intense emotional connection and psychic overlap, all of that great stuff, right? And he came to me, and like we saw this sort of vision together of what was happening. It was like being in this big storm, and this person that he was with was kind of showing up as this sort of distorted role within this storm, kind of like a monster, right? Our mind will project that role because he was having a hard time with her. And he was feeling like a little boy, very much so. So we keep going through, and he kept playing with it, as we do. You know, we're humans. We'll play with these messy dynamics until we've gotten what we need to get out of that story, out of that relationship.
Okay.
So I worked with both of them for a while, and our very first session working together, we were able to see exactly the way that the two of them were regressing with each other. So when their relationship started crumbling, when the communication started breaking down, he would go into being like a 7-year-old who was feeling rejected on the playground at school. She would go into being like a 4-year-old who had basically been abandoned by her mother for this new relationship that she was so obsessed with being a part of, right? And both of them were running these obsessive tendencies with each other, like where, you know, they're making their needs be all about the other person. So the relationship did not gel. It did not come together. That was not the point of their journey with each other. But what it did do was it showed him, because she fell off the radar and I didn't continue to work with her, but I continued to work with him. It showed him the context of this relationship, all the places from his younger selves where he was giving himself away in partnership. And the final kind of big piece that came out was these two halves of his psyche that had split with his trauma, which is what we tend to do. We take one part that is more capable of dealing with the environment and move that forward. And then there's the other part that's less capable that kind of hangs in the background.
Okay.
So for him, it broke down to being this cheeky monkey who is all social and extroverted and great at getting girls, and this shamey couch monster who was like grubby and grimy and dirty and was living between the couch cushions and really needed a shower. The cheeky monkey's entire role was to keep the shamey couch monster safe so that he wouldn't be seen. So this part that was perceived more acceptable by the family social system had been running front and forward for so long that this other more tender, more frightened of his own self-worth part had been hanging out in the background. And the moment of integration, and not that these parts melded, but that they both came into the same space at the same time and began to communicate with each other.
Wow.
So he recently wrote me about dating this new girl, and he's not putting himself on the back burner. He's not falling into the same, like, oh my gosh, like rushy gushy, like first love dynamics. He's actually, his most recent message, he was like, I'm feeling kind of selfish and it feels pretty good. Like, yes. And at the same time, he's showing up very loving and giving and caring in an authentic way, because he's not bargaining his sense of belonging to fit in, so he can actually be more whole and wholesome in the relationship. And the response is that they're having this really pleasant, wholesome engagement, like, you know, dating.
Or you can show up complete, whole and complete, and then meet someone else who's whole and complete, and then have a journey together, but they're not the solution to your problem.
Right. And for some of us who are more problem solvers, it's not even that we're wanting them to be the solution to the problem. We're actually looking for a problem to solve outside of ourselves to give us something to distract from doing our inner work. That was his story. He could see all these, he's very psychic, very intuitive. He could see all these places where she was broken and fragmented, and he wanted to help and hold and fix her. Well, and when someone's seeing us that way, that makes us anxious and uncomfortable, right? So either way, if you want to fix someone or you're looking for someone to fix you, like, that is the definition of the codependent dynamic. And it's us outsourcing a need that we need to tend to in ourselves.
Yep.
And that's what the process helps you do more than anything else.
Perfect. Oh, that's so perfect. Boy, I think we'll be talking some more. Does anybody else have any questions or any, because we're going to need to wrap up pretty soon, but I saw that Noelle and Bob showed up. So Justice, this playfully conscious, when you're talking about consciousness, This is Conscious Business Zone. And the whole reason that I do this is that I want people who are conscious to have more choices, and they don't know about all you cool people out there. So that's where I've had this wonderful year of doing these shows every twice a week almost, for the whole year, and as a resource. So how would you say that you could help? Do you feel that it's more one-on-one work that you do, or do you have other courses, or how is the best way for you to help these people get more conscious? And most of them are going to want it's not a quick fix, but they're busy.
Yeah.
They're stretched pretty thin, with time. So, do you have an offer that you do with people? Is it mostly one-on-one?
Yeah, I do mostly one-on-one. I do also group online, like webinar style classes as well.
Okay.
I've got one coming up. It's not on the site yet, but it will be up in the next couple of days, on breaking up with fantasy bonding, that I'm teaching with a colleague who's really beautiful and in tune and skillful, my friend Mina Bast. So that's coming up. We're going to be doing that right around the start of next month.
Okay.
So that's one of the ways. Um, the most way that I work with people is in a 3-session package. It's a commitment of 3 sessions. You get access to me between each session. So it's not like we meet once and you deal with your stuff and then like you're alone with whatever is coming up. Like, I like to show up within that session container to help you build that bridge between your internal and external world to support you in that. And it is a commitment, but your life is a commitment. You're a commitment to yourself. Like,
Right.
what else are you going to commit to except for more than your own well-being?
Right.
Everything has a way of reorganizing around that. I do weekly mentorships with people as well, which are 30-minute sessions just to kind of form the habit, to keep checking in. But I prefer not to do the magic one-off, although if that is what you have, you can get incredible results and awareness and access to resources in that.
That was amazing. That was just amazing what we just did for 15, 20 minutes here. I mean, that was amazing to me. And I haven't had a session with Justice before, so that was my first experience, and it was amazing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
But I do feel that there's a feeling of need for fast tracking. The energies are so different right now. We can get out of the box that we've constructed. People talk about 5D versus 3D. A lot of people are still in 4, need just this little help to get to 5.
Well, and we're all dealing with the material world, which is slow and dense and anxiety inducing. And we're all dealing with our physical bodies, which do not vibrate any faster than the rate of what they're physically capable of vibrating.
Right.
And in order to get that vibration to be more inclusive, not higher, more wholesome, you have to unpack your unconscious stuff. You absolutely have to do it. You have to do your shadow work. You can't just keep pushing your vibration higher, because it will create a disparity within your awareness and your consciousness. And that will show up outside in your life as drama and car accidents and all kinds of obnoxious stuff. This is fast.
Yes.
This is fast because you felt, what happened in 20 minutes. But it you didn't get all of your neuroses over the course of like a day or a couple of weeks. Like, this stuff builds up in you. And what actually creates the most sustainable form of resiliency is getting enough of your backlog done so that you're not being re-triggered from your childhood and older stuff, so that when you do get triggered now, it's just a current state of awareness of, this is uncomfortable, this is unpleasant, this is incongruent, and you can deal with it as an adult rather than having it activate all of your unprocessed childhood wounds.
I see. That makes total sense. So everyone, it sounds like I've been putting up Justice's website so that you can see how to reach her. Is there any other way to reach her? You're on Facebook.
I'm on Facebook. I would love it actually if anybody who hears this, if you want to hit me up and join, I host a group called Numb No More, which is all about emotional thawing. And it's a private group, so you can search for it and it'll show up. But once you join, the public can't see you and it can't see your posts. So it's a private, safe held space for emotional thawing. The other group I host is my Playfully Conscious group, which is more directed towards the focus of this process and this business and creating community. What other groups do I do? I guess that's it right now. I write also. I write on a blog, which you can find on my website. I write recently. I've started writing for Elephant Journal as well. I'm all about, communication and integration with the holy and the human, because it's not separate, and that is, it's really consciousness that marries the two. So it's not, I want to get more conscious and leave my human aspects behind. It's, I want to make holy and conscious all of my human aspects.
Right. That's perfect. Yep. I think that's what's so different about this time period, is that we're ascending embodied, and if we have these emotional blocks, they're actually going to reduce the amount of light you can hold. So this is hopefully a fast and amazingly powerful way for you to clear the things that are keeping you from holding more light and more joy. But it isn't necessarily about the polarity of sadness or joy. This is being whole.
This is being whole. And one of my favorite transmissions that Spirit ever gave me, and you mentioned grief, and I'll come back to grief because it's so important, just briefly, is that that grief and grace are twin sisters that share a heart and a womb, with eyes that look in many directions and fingers that touch through all the dimensions. So when we enter into a state of grieving, we are accessing a state of grace. And that is more what this brokenhearted world needs than anything else, because our avoidance and inability to deal with our grief is creating these mass neuroses and this regurgitation of the events that cause it in the first place.
Right.
Because each and every one of us is willing just to take a little bite out at a time of your sadness, be with that brokenheartedness, follow those uncomfortable sensations into the body and tend to what you find there. You are contributing something of deep, deep value and benefit to this world. And that's why I do this work.
Right. Oh, and thank you so much. It's so beautiful. And I can see Tom wrote Justice is amazing. I can attest to that 100%. She's helped me tremendously. Susie Jones, Kathy, this was amazing. Justice, I truly loved listening to you. And Kathy Botchman showed up too. Kathy, you'll have to listen to the replay. But I hope all of you will get a chance to experience Justice for yourself. That was truly amazing. That was not rehearsed. I'm at home today because of the snowstorm, and so it was really amazing that that memory even showed up for me. I haven't thought about it. It wanted to go bye-bye.
Yeah, I wanted to be seen and help. So I would recommend for anybody who did this process now or who's going to do it later, and for you, Kathy, spend a little time communicating with that younger part.
Okay.
Walk her through the house, kind of introduce her to your world, let her know that, this is the current state of existence, the one in which you're dwelling. So you bring her indwelling back into that.
Perfect.
That's the integration. It's not necessarily that she'll disappear, but that, she gets to participate in life with you from this new place.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much. And I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday and that this work helps you. We won't be doing a Conscious Business Zone on Thursday because it's Thanksgiving. But thank you, Justice, and I'm sure we'll talk some more. Thank you so much.
Friend me, guys. I love people. I love community. I'm all about it. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Kathy.
Yes, thank you. Bye-bye.